mics are hot. And my phone went off. 5 seconds. You're live.
Good evening. This is Mary DeCourcy, Chair of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees, and I'm calling our Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees meeting to order at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. This is an open meeting of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees. It is being recorded at Auburn Public Library in the Merriam Room. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Vision. Is anyone else recording this meeting? The agenda for this meeting was posted on the Auburn Town website on Monday, September 30th, 2024. Permit me to confirm that members of this body and persons anticipated on the agenda are present. Matt Toth.
Present.
Erica Breesacker.
Present.
Vera Corain.
Present.
Nan Johnson.
Present.
Lindsay Baker.
Present.
And I am present. And town employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dory Vecchio, Assistant Town Manager.
Present.
Excellent, thank you. Before we begin, I just want to welcome back Nan Johnson. I'm so excited to have you back on our board. Nan was with us for 20 years and was really an incredible resource for beautification, which Lindsay's in charge of at this time, so we're excited to have you back. Did you want to say anything?
Just thank you so much. I'm glad to be back and part of the board as a host board.
Awesome, awesome, thank you. So we are going to, I wrote on the agenda, reviewing and voting to approve minutes. I said from August, September, and the joint meeting. We have May's minutes that Erica has provided us with. So can we just take a few minutes to review the May minutes? And Erica will produce the August minutes at our next meeting, and I will take responsibility for the September and the joint, as I was present at those. So before I make a motion to accept the minutes, I noticed that I made a mistake at the bottom where it says feedback@auburn.gov. I believe that should be library feedback@auburn.gov. But I also want to comment a lot of the things that we had planned in May. It looks like we've accomplished many of them. So does anybody else have any comment about the minutes before we make any motion to accept or not accept the minutes?
Question/comment.
Yes.
Tactics creation of subcommittee, especially for strategic plan.
Mhm.
I think that was not Matt and Vera. I think Matt and Vera was collections policy. And I think Lindsay.
Well, I also have I think a memory issue here because I remember talking about the handbook as being what Erica and I signed up for, but the strategic plan I think is the hot potato right now, so I'm not sure.
So
Maybe we can go back to the video on that.
Yeah, I looked at the video and it was also a little unclear, so it was between
unclear.
my notes and
Yeah.
the video.
Okay.
I could always fix it or take out who's doing what, and that can be a topic of conversation.
I think that's the only one that's hanging out there. We can always reconsider who wants to be on.
Okay.
And there's, you know what I mean? We didn't start it.
So
I
we
think
can
there's
accept
a way-
them and then we
Yeah.
can decide if we want to have a little wiggle room to change.
Exactly,
Okay.
accept them with the movement of the Matt and Vera parenthetical to sit beside the tweet collections policy.
Okay.
I'm doing that right.
Awesome.
And
Any
I'll fix
other-
the email
Any
address.
other input or changes before we make any motion to accept the minutes?
Yeah. The last. They're in for last page, I think.
This is the last page.
Okay.
I'm fixing the email.
Oh, yeah.
address as well.
So.
Yeah, that was my fault. I think I repeated it several
Yeah.
times and I said feedback, library feedback.
Yeah. That's
It's
right.
fine, and I also have Auburn, the Auburn
Yeah.
part wrong.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, you're trying to think that. Strategic planning for Lindsay.
Well, I think it's only appropriate now that we have a new member, that we should reevaluate all the committee compositions.
Well, I've missed all kinds of emails, so
Yeah.
now it's like, I'll be back on subcommittees and be a good subcommittee member.
I will say the three of us, Nan and Matt and I were on the strategic plan committee. Were you, Erica? Were you with us? Okay.
No, I think that was my break.
Okay. So do I have any other comments before we make a motion to accept minutes? And again, we'll accept the minutes and understand that we may want to look at it and make a few changes and we can.
Yep, I've made the changes already, so.
Okay.
And I can send them directly to you.
So do I have a motion to accept?
moved.
Okay, so that would be Matt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second would be Vera. Erica Breesacker.
Yes.
Yes. Nan Johnson, you exactly, I was just gonna say, Lizzie Baker?
Yes.
Excellent, and I will accept the minutes, so unanimously accepting the minutes. The next piece on the agenda is public comment for 3 to 5 minutes. Does anyone in the audience have public comment? Okay, so we will move on to the progress of the strategic plan goals update. Dora, you're with us today. Do you want to take that on, or should we table that for now? And
I recommend we table that for now.
okay, so we will table the strategic plan goals update.
Okay, could I just,
Yep,
one thing
please,
on that?
yes.
I don't know, Nora, who's in charge of the website, but this material is on the website, and we never really had a chance to talk about it. I think it should probably be taken off the website. It's under, on the website, it's about the library, under strategic plan, and I think it's outcomes.
Matt, just to clarify, you're saying take it down just until we've had a chance
Oh, yeah.
to sort of
Yeah.
review and sign off and
right.
that we've come to,
Exactly.
okay, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think we should have discussed it before it was posted on the website. Okay.
Somebody refresh my memory, I'm a little lost.
So strategic plan outcomes report that was
Oh.
submitted to us.
Oh, got it,
This is the one from the May 3rd, 2023 meeting.
gotcha.
And there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Okay.
A few changes.
Okay. So we can make that happen, yes? Okay, very good. So now we're down to stuff, so I looked, as I said before, without being redundant, I'm very pleased when I looked over the minutes from May. We had plans and we followed through with a lot of our plans. So the composition of subcommittees and working groups updates, I'm gonna start with the library aesthetics. Lindsay?
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually pass it around to take one, starting on the side of the document that is in landscape. And so I put together a little status report to keep us organized around what has happened so far. Well, I guess we can start with the one that's most obvious, which is that in the room, in here in Merriam room, we have rehung 2 of the portraits that were in storage. The goal is obviously to get the women's portraits up, but as we know, those were quite damaged. So I have a next step where I'll be reaching out to a restoration company that was recommended to me by our now very good friend and partner over at the Auburn Historic Society. A shout out to Sari for her help.
Awesome.
She welcomed me very, very kindly to the museum, and we spent an hour walking around.
That's awesome.
Looking at all of the fabulous artifacts, and she gave me some great recommendations for how to move forward with reframing and
Awesome.
fixing. So I'll be taking some steps on that. If anyone has had a chance, the history room also has 4 items rehung. I think it looks really good.
I think it looks great. Thank you for it.
It really spruces the joint up.
Yes.
And the next step in both rooms is to do some brief write-ups, contextualizing the portraits and the images. Jean had actually shared with me a plaque that she had made up for the inlaid table that's in the history room, which is quite beautiful. So I'm going to use her template, and I've submitted now to Dory a request to put an order in for some more of the wood plaques. They're quite attractive. So I think that'll be a nice addition, low cost add, and based on some of what I got from the Historical Society, I can incorporate that language into the write-ups to contextualize. So I think those will be 2 really nice features of the library, something to bring folks in and take a look. The Goddard Rocket Collection, there's 10 items. That one had been left a little bit open-ended, and so the goal is to try to remount those, ideally in between the windows in the main library building. There's some old mounting hardware and things in there, so I think that's just a next step, is to follow up and make sure we have what we need to get things remounted. They're quite heavy, the frames, so want to make sure we do it correctly. But yeah, so that's the progress. You know, there's a number of things that still need to be done, but those beautiful portraits and the things that we were nervous about getting more damaged are now hung, and you know, we've got some good next steps.
Great.
So yeah,
Exciting.
so that was good.
How do you
progress.
feel?
Oh, I feel great.
I bet you do.
I hung those myself, so sweat equity.
That's
Awesome. I'm
perfect.
so excited that you took the initiative on this. Does anybody have any questions or comments or?
Oh, great job.
Yeah, I agree,
It's
100%.
really cool seeing the old pictures
Yes.
and the history around Auburn.
Well, it was kind of fun. We had a meeting in the history room the other night, so it was kind of nice to have.
Was
Oh,
nice.
good. Yeah.
It was nice. Anything else? So we'll move on to the next update on subcommittee or working group, Library of Things. Matt?
The only thing that I have, well, we have a long list that you were able
Yeah.
to put together. And we have a definition for that. Now, the last report from the director had some material in there for a library of things. Dory, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to be able to find out who, if anybody who is presently at the library had anything to do with that library of things, because before we move forward, I'd like to talk to that person to see what they've done and compare that to what we were thinking about. It's a paragraph only in the report. Everybody have that report?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, I think while you're looking for that, I think also you had talked at the last September meeting
Yeah.
about how important it is to have somebody who represents the library or even the Friends be a part of that committee, that working group to develop a library of things.
Yeah. And that might be the person if.
Yeah, I agree.
Because this is an interesting thing, because what's listed here, there's 17 different kind of items. I hadn't had a chance to go to the desk and ask about those yet beforehand. But I saw that, and the other concern that I had, there's no form listed, that we would use for a person to understand that they have personal liability when they take these items out. It's different than the books.
It was in the news, Madam.
Yeah, it's right here in
Yeah.
the library thing.
Yeah.
But we had that meeting the other night. The definition that we came up with is, it's a service of the library that lends out everyday popular items that may be needed for one-off jobs, but are rarely used afterwards. They could be something as tools, electronics, recreational equipment, and they would help reduce the consumerism and encourage sharing within the community. So that's what we came up with, and we thought that covered everything. But of course, we're a working group, so we don't have, it's not open meeting requirements, at least that's what Ginger told me, because there are only 2 people from the Board of Trustees, and then anybody else who wanted to come could come. But we don't have agendas or anything like that. So that's what we came up with, and if that sounds okay, I'll type this up, then we can vote on it in November.
Any thoughts from the board?
Oh, you had the list, if you don't have that with you, I've got it here. The kinds of things that the community offered.
So let me explain. So I've been using all of the websites that I have, that I'm on for Auburn. There's a real Auburn website. There's one that says the Home of the Dandies, which is the original mascot, and a Town of Auburn. I can't remember which one, but I asked 2 questions. I said, we are very interested in knowing what items our constituents and our patrons would be interested in having in the library that they could use their card to take out. The second question I had was about periodicals. Unbelievable feedback that we got. And I had difficulty with my reception. I was looking it up. I didn't prepare it in advance, so I apologize. But I looked it up, and there was quite a lot of input from the community. So for this that was last Monday, 7 days ago. So last night I posted again, and I asked for some feedback on aesthetics, and any information that people would like to share regarding the beautification of the library, and then anything that people would like to share about desire for us to include the history of Auburn or anything related to historical artifacts. I want that information as well. So I gave Matt partial of the list, but I think some of the items, if you don't mind sharing, I thought it was really insightful.
And some of these things, of course, we'd have to go through town manager because of liability issues. I don't know how good. A lot of the libraries are using forms that you accept all liability, and the town is not responsible for anything if you hurt yourself. But so some of these things, that's possible, like small power tools, a tire pump, Roku sticks, hotspots. That's one that comes up. And I've asked about that a lot, to be able to have a hotspot so that people could take something from here to their own homes and then be able to have access to the internet in ways that they couldn't have it without that. Laptops, iPads, sewing machine, the Cricut things, projector, telescope, DVD, VHS players, karaoke machine, depth finder, hobby items, stained glass tools. Let's see, I have a little trouble with my handwriting here. Knitting needles, tools, cookware, heat monitor. So that's a whole variety of things, and most of those things don't fit the category where you have to worry about somebody hurting themselves.
Right.
And that could really be interesting, but I'll be happy to talk to whoever in the library might have had some work to do with that, so that I can bring back some other information, what they had from the library here. It's a policy thing, another thing that we're going to have to develop somehow, the form for using this equipment, but there are several of those in different libraries that we can take a look at, copy.
And I know two things that we discussed at the meeting. I suggested, one suggestion that I had related to my own job and what we do is that if we had partnerships with different places like Home Depot, it could be a certificate to be able to get out a power tool. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be housed here at the APL, but it could be something that, like I often use the museum passes with children. So I come in and I get a great museum pass. I'm able to go to the Art Museum, Southwick's. It could be very easy to develop a partnership where we can borrow something, and with all of the local businesses. What else did we talk about as part of that subcommittee?
The musical instruments.
That's
How
right.
did I forget that one?
Yeah, ukuleles. People talked
Guitars.
about guitars,
Yeah.
amplifiers, things like that.
Sturdy stuff is what they asked
Sturdy,
for.
yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts? There was another piece. You know, a thing that came up, and it's not directly related, so forgive me in advance. But because I got such an enthusiastic feedback from 3 platforms about what people in the library that care about the library want to know, I thought it would be really neat for us to explore having a Facebook presence for the library itself. I know the Friends have a Facebook presence, but you know, the kids use Snapchat, they use Instagram, those older of us use Facebook, but I think it would be awesome to have an open channel of communication. And again, some of the communication will be critical, and we have to accept that as well. Just like we would if we were being rated by anyone, if we were a hospital or we were a college or we were a business. But I think it would be neat to have a real open forum so that we could get more feedback that's real time from our community.
Yeah, I think critical feedback is valuable in terms of we don't often see where we might have a hole in a process. So when somebody lets us know about it, it gives us an opportunity to improve. I think also looking at other area libraries that do have established libraries of things, they can give us some feedback around what's popular. I don't think it's going to be unique to their area, but it might be things that people don't think about that we can apply here, because I think that we have taken an approach in the past where if this library has it, we maybe don't want to have it because they have it, but I think with things like a library of things or like periodicals, something people want to put their hands on in the moment. They don't want to have to figure out which neighboring town has it. They want their library to have it.
So we did some work. What other library you know that has a library of things that's local that we could go visit?
Webster
Yeah.
has a really good one.
In Dudley.
Shrewsbury.
Right?
Was it
Shrewsbury,
Yeah.
Dudley, Webster. How about, we went to
I know.
Millbury.
Yes, I think they had one too.
I think they had a modest one.
Yeah, and what I like about Webster really stood out in the sense that they had a lot of stuff, but it was very, very easy to access in that they just put the picture and the name on like a CD case.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a DVD case, and you
Yeah.
saw it on the margin, so you could just take out your little DVD case and bring it up, and it was, you know, and you knew what it was right there without having all of this monstrosity of a display right in front of people.
It seems like the things to follow up on are both the liability piece and making sure that gets reviewed by town council and everything, but then also the replacement challenges or theft challenges of what is the policy for pursuing that if someone doesn't return an item. I think that was the concern stated about especially the hotspots and laptops and things where they're quite expensive. So they walk away, never come back, and then that becomes an expense for the library. So it's
damage.
Or just damage, right? You know, somebody spills something on it, or so what's kind of the insurance coverage for any of the larger or bigger ticket items?
Yeah, Worcester's had they're big on letting out hotspots, and so that might be something we could easily ask them about.
Yeah, just how they handle it. I think it's a great idea to do. Obviously, a lot of people struggle, and it's expensive to keep Wi-Fi in their house, so I can appreciate wanting it. I think that was just a hesitance that we were getting at these meetings whenever we talked about it. So.
I'm just going to try to find that Worcester one.
Anything else about Library of Things? Then we will move to the next agenda item, which is the update on new policies, Vera.
So on the new policies, the primary policy I was working on was an update to the periodicals, and I would have brought a printout, but my printer decided it didn't want to play today. So that was not happening. But one of the questions I turned back to the board is we had written kind of a broad periodicals policy, and the intent of the update was to make it match up with one of the goals we set. So instead of having something broad, the updated one would read, library provides representative periodical titles in a wide range of subjects of reference value and recreational interest to support our mission as a town library. The selection should be both in print and electronic. The print selection should be commensurate with area libraries. At present, this means a selection of at least 40 unique print magazine offerings for adults with several back issues and several print newspapers. The selection of adult periodicals should be based on community interest and budget. Periodicals and newspapers are required for both casual reading and research purposes, and then some language after that that I didn't touch. So we can do that if we want that level of specificity. If we don't want to be that specific, we can remove numbers and what have you. I removed things like it said, the selection of periodicals will have to do with budget, spacing, so on and so forth. Like ultimately, we want magazines for people, we want newspapers for people, we want this library to be welcoming, so people can come and sit in a chair and open up a newspaper or page through a magazine or what have you. I like the numbers and specificity because I'm a policy wonk, but how do you guys feel about that?
I think if there were to be numbers, it should be a range. That way there's flexibility and adaptability. Because if we say, up to 40 and then we have 41.
At least 40.
At least 40, those at least are up to or something, but at least a range that gives us space to grow and see how things go, and if we want to keep growing it, or if we find that like there's a sweet spot that we know kind of what specificity to really aim for.
I like it.
Any other thoughts, Nan?
Periodicals were expensive years ago. I can only imagine what the cost is now and which ones would be chosen. The ones that are most in demand, the most unique, I don't know.
We put some questions out about the library generally and got a lot of feedback on periodicals that people wanted to see. And they ran the gamut from Milk
Clean
Magazine,
Eating,
Cook's
yeah,
Magazine,
yeah.
Clean Eating,
Yeah.
Gardening, Fishing, Boston Magazine, Consumer Reports. We have a few of those now. But it looks like there's a wide range of community interest, and I think that's the most important thing, is to make sure that we're hitting what this community is interested in. Like we have National Geographic. Are people interested? I don't know. That's not one that got listed, but we have others that people did list. But I also think that we want to kind of match up with what other communities have, and they tend to have 40 to 60 titles.
Okay.
But I think it's important to get the community feedback. We want what we have to reflect that. And particularly, like you mentioned, expense, right? So it's gotten so much more expensive to just go out and buy a magazine to peruse or to get a subscription, so.
Things do matter. When we talked about the library of things, I think it was Webster has a chicken brooder, and I'm going, how different that is, because that's perhaps a little more country than we are.
Yeah.
So it depends on the locale for what the people are most interested in.
Right? We got, for example, a number of requests for the Atlantic on the Facebook groups, and who knew?
Mhm.
But a lot of people want it.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Any other
Well,
questions?
I just really like the fact that you're doing that with those websites and getting that kind of information.
Yeah.
We ought to think about what we can do in the library as well and have QR codes that people can use to answer questions.
Right.
To make it simple.
Make it really easy. Yeah,
That's
I agree.
for another day, but at least we might be able to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I'm on the Arts Council as well, and we have an Instagram page, so it is something that's important because you want to advertise what we're doing, but we also want to have some sort of a platform to find out what people are interested in, if we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a little help, a little feedback.
I think the other thing that's great about using the Facebook pages, because we have 3, possibly 4, I think a new one might have popped up.
Yeah.
And you have different people, but we're able to hit people that don't necessarily come to the library because they're going somewhere else, and they're telling us what they wish we had so that they would come here.
Right.
So it's a gold mine.
We almost need a committee person to tabulate this, to have that as part of their responsibility. Otherwise, we can't keep track of the
Right.
answers.
Right. That's right. That's right.
Facebook group spreadsheet.
Anything else on the updated policies? Okay, strategic plan, preparations for strategic plan. I have Lindsay, but of course that's up for everyone. But in terms of what we need to do to prepare, again, we're on the last year of our last strategic plan. We didn't get a lot of feedback on how we were doing. I know we had a subcommittee that we talked about how to measure. So I'm just gonna hand it over to you and let it bounce around a little bit. Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's where maybe we got, like, my name ended up on this. So
Yeah.
we had done some work on how to restructure a response to
Yes.
the current strategic
Correct.
plan. I think what was reported back didn't really take that into account. That's fine. We had already framed it as assuming that it was more framing for as we move forward. And I will make sure that you have a copy of that. That set of questions that we had submitted, but the idea was just to do it as sort of almost a brainstorming session, thinking about how to structure the next one. And I think from reading the report that was submitted, it's clear that I think a lot of what was in the strategic plan is still applicable, and it may be a slightly easier exercise this time to take what was there and just update and sort of move forward, right? I think the format's good, the structure is good.
That's right.
You guys did so much work last time with a consultant, and so I think leveraging that, we've got a good foundation.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I'm hopeful it won't be quite as onerous a process, but I know there was a lot of talk about how to get community feedback on that and whether we need to do that before looking back at what was accomplished. Does the community agree? And then looking forward, what might we add or modify in that language. So
I know a very active participant at that time in that whole process was Suzette Dowd, who was part of our working group on Monday. I think it would be really invaluable to have her come back and kind of, have the past strategic plan. How do we go about it? How do we get our focus groups? Again, it was right before the pandemic. That was rough. So it was already a little scary. People are a little tense. But she had she and Matt, you too, all the way through, you kind of were the 2-point individuals, right?
Yeah. Well, Leanna worked on that as well.
Oh, that's
Well, having been through one, now we kind of know what we don't want to do or where we should focus.
That's right. That's right.
The COVID situation did create a barrier to getting some of the information we would have liked to have had.
Yeah.
People were very nervous about trying to get together.
Right.
And then we just simply had to cancel it.
Yeah, we did.
So do you guys want to be on the strategic plan committee again, or do you want to just advise? Like, I don't want to voluntold anybody.
Yeah.
I would be happy to advise Lindsay.
Yeah.
I'd be very happy to do that, take whatever hours you need on that. Because, but really what you're saying does make perfectly good sense. What you're doing is to take advantage of what we did in the past.
Right.
I'm going to have to, Dory, I'll let you get, I've asked for a long time to get the files that we had somewhere in the back room in a file cabinet that were Board of Trustees materials for strategic plan. Because as we've started talking about it, I wanted to be able to, but I asked for those several times and was unable to get them. I could recognize the file cabinet if I see it, and so maybe I'll try to go back in the furnace room and see if it might still be there. I don't know, it might even be in the garage, but it has all of our notebooks in there with all the people we contacted, everything, and extra copies so that whoever would be doing this work would have that.
I would be happy to be on the committee.
I would too. I just want to to reiterate what I heard Lindsay just say. I think we did have the bones of a very good working draft. It's a working draft only because we didn't necessarily get feedback on everything, but I think it would be very interesting to either invite back our person as an advisor or to talk about who we're going to hire to do, but I think we have to use what we had before as a working draft and then just update it. So I don't know if we would want to hire the consultant again to bring us forward, or whether we would work just individually, just as a committee, and to reach out to the community and put together focus groups and things like that. Like, do we think we need a consultant?
There's a lot of hard work that goes into a consultant. efforts on this that are really helpful to us. They really are. They make a difference. There's an awful lot of stuff like original drafts of some of the material. She did all that kind of work, and she's, at least that person has done an awful lot of these strategic plans.
That's
She's
right.
fully aware.
Right.
What we'd have to make sure is we'd have to ask about a budget line for that. And that would probably be between $3,000 and $5,000.
Right. And what we did, I believe, is, again, we advertised it as you would, it's an
Yeah.
open application
Yeah.
process. I think we interviewed 3 different
Yeah.
candidates, right? And we unanimously agreed on Barbara Alvarez, who was the individual that we hired.
Yes.
And I thought that she was very effective in getting us to all focus on, maintaining focus on how we were gonna move forward, and then she really did guide us on how to just really, really narrow down so that we were really focused in every aspect of the process. Am I right?
Yeah. See, we had done a lot of work ahead of time. We had divided up probably 25 to 30 directors. We all called those directors. We got help from those people. We got the copies of their strategic plans. It really made a big difference. We developed at least a short questionnaire that we used to gather some data, and then she refined that.
She did.
And that was really helpful. So that made a big difference. But there was an awful lot of work that went in from trustees. But the consultant does make a difference.
I agree.
Nan, did you want to be on the group or advise or?
I'll do whatever I can as the time goes on, sure.
Okay, all
Sounds
right.
great.
Did certainly research things and,
Did you want any more input on that item, Nan?
no, I can remember collecting the other library strategic plans, and again, they're quite involved. It really is a huge effort on
Yeah,
our
it is.
part. And because of the COVID situation, we just didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
We did get responses, but it wasn't what we were hoping for.
That's right. That's right.
The focus groups, we just couldn't have them.
Right.
So we did the best we could with that, but it was hard.
And I know our former superintendent gave
Oh, yeah.
the survey online to the middle school and the high school. That was really helpful to get the teen voice. And allotted that time within the school day, so that we weren't asking this. Then again, we were trying to be sensitive to, people didn't want to gather at that time. And that was really, really helpful. Any other comments on the preparation of the strategic plan? Okay, next item is the director's report. I didn't know if you want to take that one, Dory?
Yeah, I will just update you. I have a report from Dr. Jean Collins dated October 2nd, 2024. She said, I think this was sent out to you already. She included the director's report, the newsletter, that gives you a snapshot of all the activities and initiatives. She also did the state financial report that was due this Friday that ensures basically our funding. So we're fully in compliance. She completed that, so we're not going to have any issues with that. That's pretty much, she did the ARIS report that was submitted. She sent you an attachment, and they also have the bill schedules that I think you have. So that's what I have for tonight.
You know what, I don't, does anybody have a copy of that bill schedule? I just had two
Yeah,
questions.
sure. Extra copy on the table. Good job. Very good, very prepared.
I wonder who Amanda Goodhart was, but that must have been one of the programs, so I'm not gonna worry about that one too
That was
much.
a program in October, so we try to pay them the date of the program if at all possible. If they cancel, we put the check back in the fund.
Okay, let's see. I guess that's it, really.
Any other questions for anyone? From anyone I met?
Overdrive is all the online stuff, right?
Let me just see, Overdrive,
Yeah.
yes, e-content.
Okay.
There is the Home Depot purchase of $84.97, which is a laser tape measure, and that's for the library of things. Right?
Awesome.
Goes towards
Yay.
what the board is talking about.
Yep.
So that's on here.
Any other questions?
No, the only other thing is, Dory, what I also noticed today on the, when I was looking at the website, the staff here is not listed by name.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's the only place that are not, that it isn't. And I don't recall exactly why that's the case, but there's something that seems not very, it lacks any, it's like they don't exist fully. And I think having their full names on there would be useful.
I think some of the people employed are first name. That has been a concern of mine as well.
Yeah.
But I've seen some first names, so as a public employee, it's kind of a public record.
Yes, it
There
is.
shouldn't be any hesitation about
No.
it.
No, I agree. I agree. Any other comments on that? Just, I wanted to point out the correct, on the bottom of our agenda, Erica, that's the correct email address. And again, that email goes to all of us to get feedback, library feedback at town.auburn.ma.us. That's the actual correct for your notes. So just to reiterate, thank you, Erica, for the May notes. Thank you, everybody, for feedback on how we're doing on our working groups and subcommittees. Erica, you will produce the August minutes, and I will do the September and the joint, and you obviously will do the October for the next meeting.
Yep.
And our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. If we don't have anything else, yes, go ahead,
So I
please.
have to, this didn't make it on the agenda, but on the back of the document that I shared, there's a
Yes.
second page.
Oh,
And
yes.
just to close with some, I think, some nice news. So I spent the last
Oh,
couple
yes,
of weeks
yes.
trying to clarify and get some information on the funds that are in trust, that are available for the library. And so I think, very good news is that as of June 30th, 2024, we currently have over $22,000 in expendable funds in trust. I am still working to get clarification on whether there are any restrictions, whether any of those trusts have, are restricted. So as of right now, the only one that we're certain about is that the Norma Card Trust is unrestricted, and the expendable amount available to us is probably at this point a little over $17,000 in essentially accrued interest. And I'll just read out what I've understood through conversations with our town manager, Ed, is that any funds accrued in an expendable library trust can be spent on any library associated materials or activities. The Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees may approve use of the expendable funds for appropriate purposes and coordinate purchases out of the library expendable trust accounts with current acting library director Dory Vecchio, at which time purchase orders will be issued and encumbered in the Auburn town financial system. So I just thought it would be nice to conclude our meeting knowing that there is a rather sizable pool of funds available for the Board of Trustees to apply for, for any purpose that kind of we see fit. I do still think it would be nice to reestablish some sort of policy around this, just so that we have that on the books, just as part of a handbook, for the Board of Trustees. Is it by unanimous? Is it majority vote? Like, how do we make those decisions? And now I know, I reached out
It's
to
been
that.
majority vote on that, but I mean, it always comes down to a consensus.
Yeah.
And the biggest expenditure we ever did was on that sign outside,
Mhm.
the road sign, that was the big expenditure. And,
Yeah.
I might somewhere have, which of these might have some minimal restriction,
Mhm.
but it's very limited. There aren't very many, almost
Well,
all
yeah,
of these.
As Ed said, many of these are like from the 19th century. They're very old. So
Yeah.
these are just long-standing trusts, which means.
So you're gonna be okay to get paid for whatever, or to be
Yeah.
able to pay for those?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna work directly now with Ed
That's
and
great,
Dory to
great.
just
Perfect.
process any of the, these are pretty small expenditures
Yeah.
to start a handful of plaques and basic supplies for hanging art, but
Because we had, what, 500 or 1,000?
we had talked about 1,000 just
Yeah.
for a pre-approved blanket for anything we needed for the beautification, and I think this first expense will be like under $200. So yeah, I don't think
The
it would be too
restoration will
much.
be about 4.
Yeah, the restoration will probably eat up the rest of that,
Yeah.
but that's all right. It's worth it for
Yeah, it is.
those gals
Yeah, it
to
is.
get their same
Yeah.
portraits. So.
Now, do you need anything from the board? I know you mentioned that you'll be working, I did see that email and I kind of forwarded it and put a little, so just to make sure that if funding is freed up, do you need anything in terms of a vote or anything from us?
No, I think we had already
Yeah.
pre-approved up to 1,000
Yeah,
and
we
this will
did.
be a fairly
Yeah.
small first
Yeah.
expense. So,
Great.
yeah, just a little something to add to the portrait.
I love it. I
And
love it.
clarification, are you working on things that, historic items that were here in our library?
Yeah, so this was a collection that has been in storage, like I guess sort of just taking up space. And some of the framed portraits were quite damaged. The pictures were torn or very sun damaged. And so we are looking to obviously get those maybe reprinted, which is what I think the treatment for these two portraits in the room. Yeah, they're prints of portraits,
Okay.
and even the ones that we have, they're not like original portraits. They're not painted. They're photographed, and so they were clearly in certain frames. A hole's been punched through one of them. The other is quite sun damaged, so it doesn't, it's quite faded. But it appears from what we looked at that the two men's portraits that are in the Merriam room had been reprinted because we found the old versions that were sun damaged and they were in the library. Right now in storage there remains a collection of 9 framed, and I actually have right now the newspaper article about the Goddard rocket and the park. There's 9 frames and then one additional item that I'll get a small frame for that we want to see remounted out in the main library. I actually think that was where they originally were because they're in these narrow, tall frames, and you can actually see the old drywall, anchors in some of the wall space. So, we're just really trying to get them back up on the walls and out of storage because we know storage is tight in the library. So, that'll push free up.
And the Historical Society is more than happy to have us display it here because again,
Yes.
they're.
Yeah, well, if anything, they're a little jealous, and so I think making sure it gets back on the walls is important because I think it's a disservice to it's really interesting history and really nice quality pieces that are in storage. There's some other items. There's some old books that are in a cabinet in there. Those need a look, but that wasn't readily a part of this project. And there are some other documents and things that are stored in just bags and envelopes and things, and those could use another look. But but I'm happy again to send you the report that we did, including photographs of everything that's in the collection.
So do you mind if I just segue, I'm gonna jump on the point of the richness of the History Museum, and also it is tight over there. Was there any discussion on, or did you have a chance did anybody express any interest in utilizing the space we have here to display things?
That did not come up.
Okay.
I didn't offer that, and it was not a request.
Okay.
So yeah, that didn't come up.
Okay, because when I first moved here and I wasn't on the board yet, I asked them if they'd ever considered utilizing space at the Auburn Public Library, where we're front and center in the town, and they said that wasn't necessarily something that the director was open to, but, so you didn't touch on that at all?
No, I think.
I might circle back, because I know when I walked through, I learned so much about this community from the individuals that are devoted to speak about that there, but there was such an enormous amount of historical items that it was difficult, it was almost squished, everything was squished, and I wonder if there'd be a way that we could maybe have
Mary,
even,
Can you
sorry.
see it in the glass cabinet up there? Could you see a short-term display?
Oh, yes, I did,
I mean, as historical items
Yes.
going into that
Yeah.
area.
Oh, you mean could I absolutely. I was thinking, actually, because again, this is something, I come to the libraries a lot, libraries in plural, but there's so much space that you could even have glass displays with like a, some sort of a theme that they come through, and then the stuff goes back to the museum, and that would be awesome. That would be awesome, and I learned about the church near my house that has the two entrances. It was just very interesting, the things that we could learn if it was right out there, and we could ask questions about.
I do know that the Historical Society was in touch with Jean about doing some programming,
Great.
and so I don't know where that stands.
Where that stands.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they did mention that they had reached out to the library about doing
Awesome.
something programming wise. I think it was maybe a partnership with the schools, and
Yeah,
they
right,
were gonna do
right.
a history
Right.
scavenger hunt kind of thing. So it sounded kind of fun, and they wanted to see if the library could plug into that.
She knows everything about this town.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, she
Absolutely
knows everything.
everything.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it
You
really
said
is.
an hour, I was surprised at that.
I told her I was gonna get home. But no, it's a wonderful resource in town, and I think she was just excited to know that we were putting some of these things back up and seeing them come back online. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think it's important to also let Dory know that we'll do everything that we can in this process
Yes.
for hiring a director, whatever that might be. You know how important that is.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions, comments before we motion to adjourn? Again, I want to reiterate, our next meeting is November 6th here in the Merriam Room at 6 o'clock. Do I have a motion to adjourn? And I have, did you race? Was that a race? So, Erica, I'm going to say that you are my first motion, and
You know what, we may want to plan on a December meeting,
okay,
in case that might be helpful.
okay.
You know.
Is everybody open to that, if we were need a December meeting? Yeah, okay, great,
Before
great.
the holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have Erica as a motion. Do you want to be the second?
Yeah, second.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We finished under an hour today. Wow.